This is Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, Super Spreading Bitcoin 2022. Today is January the 7th, 2022. Oh yeah, we are here. Strong hand, be a unique beast. No circuit breakers in Bitcoin, never bored. Solution over sympathy, innovation over interference. Buying over crying. I'm offended by selling. Oh, yeah, especially on a day like this. One day closer to an all-time high. Hello, my elite friends. You've got questions, I've got answers. Ask the questions in the super chat. I want to say this is the 244th This Week in Bitcoin show in the history of the show. Wow. I've been doing this for some time. And Brandon Quinton is back. Keep It Simple Bitcoin is back. The Rational, who you guys know and love from Twitter, makes his debut. I want to thank Craig Shipp for the $5. We only need $72 more to get a one Bitcoin show later in the week. And yeah, dudes, Florida dreaming on such a winter's day. Cass Elliot used to sing about that. I think it was Florida. Well, anyway, so remember, Bitcoin Miami conference. It's Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be a blast. We're going to talk about that. Some of us were at the Bitcoin 2021. It's going to be April 6th to 9th. Discount code below, Adam10. Use it, link on it, click on it, buy your tickets. I'm going to be there. There's going to be, I'm just so excited to meet people in person. It's going to be unbelievable. We will talk about that. So this show, for those of you that are not watching this live, there is an order to this show, so you can skip ahead. We're going to talk about the price first for all you weak hands out there that panicked, and that'll blend into talking about rate hikes from the Fed. And then, baby, we are going to get down with Brandon Quinton's article about Bitcoin mining and energy and ecology. Oh my Lord, how he breaks this down in such a way. How you could believe energy FUD after this article. It's already linked below. All these guys are linked below. Pound that like button. Coin's 13th birthday was earlier this week. We'll talk about that. Supreme Court is coming out with a decision on a mandate. Is that going to spook the market? And of course, we'll talk about Florida being the freest place in the United States, possibly, and what we're going to do on April 6th to 9th at the Bitcoin 2022 conference. I want to start it off with a quote from Brandon here. Bitcoin rewards the productive class at the expense of the political class. I want that. That should inspire people right there. Bitcoin rewards the productive class at the expense of the political class. Be productive. Build your freaking cities around Bitcoin mining places. Don't complain and say the whole world's going to end. We need energy for progress, for production, all right? And by the way, it is January the 7th. Oh my, what an anniversary. We all sad. Oh, and what happened a year ago? Oh, no, we're not. What I'm talking about, baby, a year ago, January 7th, first time Bitcoin ever hit $40,000, new all-time high. Baby, we're one day closer to all-time high. Once again, that's the way it works around here. You can cry about some building getting desecrated, or you can become rich from $40,000 freaking Bitcoin. So now people oh, it's dropping down to 40,000. Get some perspective, people. Get some perspective, for God's sakes. It's only been a year since it first entered the $40,000 realm. I'm tired of this complaining. We only got 27 months to the next Bitcoin halving. So you can inquire about buildings and riots and whatever, or you could be a buyer, baby. And this is an opportune time for buying the freaking Bitcoin. And so we're going to start off talking about the freaking Bitcoin price. And we'll start with the Rational Root. He's a new guy here. There's a tweet below where he has this freaking complex graph. I don't even fully understand the whole thing. I was trying to think about it before the show. I'm going to need more time to study it. The 2021 cycle so far gave us 32 blue dots, which are all-time highs. We had 72 in the 2017 cycle and 52 in the 2013 cycle. Let the fireworks begin. So you're implying that this cycle isn't over, that we've got more all-time highs coming in the 2021 cycle, even though it's 2022. I got to tell you, I don't care if this is the beginning of the bear market. I don't care, because I know we're one day closer to all-time high. It's about holding. It's about being a unique beast. Rational Root, take it away. Are you
Thanks,
there, Ray?
thanks, Adam. That was a fantastic intro. I couldn't have done it any better. Your intros are the best as always. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if we go into the bear market. We'll have a bear market, but I think there's still more for 2022 to expect. I think that we're not yet ready for a bear market. We haven't had a parabolic move up, and so even if we would make like a bear market, I wouldn't think it would be like a year or a year and a half bear market. I couldn't imagine that. It goes both ways. So if you don't go up parabolically, you also don't have the downside as much, right? So I think we're still good. I mean, obviously we are below some critical levels, and in Bitcoin, short-term holders are at a loss, and we're below the 1 trillion market cap, and that's not all that positive. But still, I think 40K is good support. I think, I think we can stand firm here, and I think you can even see it. People are buying this dip already. Some on-chain indicators like dormancy flow or so show that we're at bottom levels. Even comparable to like the crash, the Corona crash in March of 2020. So that those are good signs, and so I think there's still more in play. The chart you were referring to, I think it was the spiral chart, right?
Yes.
So there are several versions of that spiral chart. I was not the creator of the initial spiral chart, but I've surely worked upon this concept. I loved it, and I've been exploring Bitcoin through that chart as well. And so I have one version which I think is the most accurate version. And that is the halving hype spiral chart. You can find it on my Twitter. And that starts at the halving, and it actually shows that potential we could have like a peak in March or so, or even early April, and so we will see. But as you said, it doesn't matter. Bitcoin long term will go up, and even I would recommend for most people, to not start trading. Mostly you will lose. It's better just to stack sats and look forward to the next halving, and long term, nobody in Bitcoin with that has been in Bitcoin for 4 years has been at a loss. So that should give you some confidence.
All right, so I love how you use the term halving hype. First of all, I love it. And guess what? It's the next halving's March of 2024. It's not that far away, baby. Let's start the halving hype now. If you got a true strong hand, you got to hang on until then. Real quick though, and people check out his spiral chart, or the spiral chart. It's linked below. The thing I do want to just ask, I guess, the entire panel though, but before we leave you, Root, do you think this has anything to do? The prices obviously went down since the year started, with the Fed saying that basically we're going to have rate hikes.
Yeah, so I'm by no means an expert on the Fed and the Fed policies, but sure, I think there's not really enough data yet, to know what Bitcoin will do. It's still unclear at this point if Bitcoin is influenced by that at all. But in gold, we can see actually that if there are rate hikes, that the gold price has moved up. So, but Bitcoin obviously is not gold; it's gold 2.0, and so it's a different asset. It's still relatively early. So it's really difficult to say what will happen because of that. But I don't think this drop is because of that, to be honest. I think the drop from just the last 2 days was mainly liquidations, future liquidations. There's a lot of derivatives, but the Bitcoin ecosystem became quite complex compared to previous cycles. And so we just had a lot of long liquidations, and those moved the price down significantly. And that's, for me, that means good hope that we can recover fairly soon, even from that. So the Fed, the Fed rate hikes. I don't know, to be honest, what to answer to that. It's like it's difficult to say how much influence it will have on the Bitcoin market. Equities seem to be influenced by it, and Bitcoin seems to be correlated to equities as well. So there are some positives there, but we will have to see. I mean, I could also initially expect, just as the stock market will likely maybe drop, because on this news, and Bitcoin might be correlated to that as well a little bit. So initial, because of risk, you tend to go out of risk assets. So Bitcoin is still seen as a risk asset, and even though it's not that risky long term, if you truly understand it, but that's just what it is. And so I could see an initial drop or like negative price pressure because of it, but I think it will quickly recover, as it always has.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. You brought up correlated assets, and Bitcoin is supposed to be uncorrelated with everything, and it just seems like sometimes it is correlated. At least people make up their mind to sell their Bitcoin based on some issues that I wouldn't make me sell. But anyway, Brandon, your take on the Fed rate hikes and Bitcoin price and what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I agree pretty much with what Root said there. I don't see a prolonged bear market in the future. We haven't had a euphoric top. It would be very surprising. And things also on the other hand, I'm surprised that we are sitting around 40 right now, right? And so another reason to stay humble and stack. This thing is not changing its upward pressure over the long term, but short term, yeah, things are getting kind of weird out there. With regards to correlation, I think that's a very interesting argument, and it's undoubtedly correlated to S&P 500 more than it ever has been this year. Honestly, since COVID 2020 crash. And Su Zhu from Three Arrows Capital, kind of a trader whale, he laid out a thesis on Twitter this week that I thought made sense, which was that in March 2020, a lot of true Bitcoin believers were flushed out that day. Caught with leverage longs, essentially buying into the halving hype of May 2020, right? They got caught on that day. They got flushed out. And what he saw was that macro trader bros came into the market then, sort of following on to the printing money hype thesis. And so a bunch of new buyers, right, the macro guys bought Bitcoin. And that led to increased correlation to the S&P. And then, a predictable end of the year sell-off, selling into the liquidity as the price was breaking new all-time highs, right? That's pretty standard for them. And so with them selling now, we're essentially allowing the true believers, the hardcore hodlers, to reaccumulate the price, right? And so I think that actually is healthy for another move up in 2022.
Wow, that thesis, I mean, about the bros coming in and then the correlation starting then, that is some good stuff, man. It makes perfect sense. I said, it seems like it's sometimes correlated. Well, that's when the sometimes started, I guess. Very good theory. I'm glad you brought that up. Best freaking guest in the space. Pound that like button, people. You actually use the term true believer, and I just want to use this to plug the book True Believer. I listened to the audiobook. I was driving to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I am right now. That's by Eric Hoffer. If you want to know about mass movements, read that or listen to it. I might link to it below. And I immediately thought about the Obama campaign from 2008. It's like he's describing it, but it was written in the 1960s. And we're living through a time of many true believers jumping into many mass movements, and like true believers in very bad ways and mass movements in very bad ways. That's just a side. I got sidetracked there because you inspired me by using that term. Everyone can do their own research on that. So let's get back to, you never know what you're going to hear. Let's get back to price and keep it simple Bitcoin. Do you have anything to add to the conversation here? You'd like to keep it simple, teaching people the basics of Bitcoin, how to store their freaking Bitcoin. And that you're doing that is good, so that they're not tempted to freaking sell it on days like this, where so many people, or on days like March 12th and 13th of 2020 that Brandon referred to, where so many became weak hands. But yet I bought 2 Bitcoin that day for $10,000 total and became even wealthier. But continue, keep it simple Bitcoin. What do you have to say about the price action? Keep it simple.
Potentially
Unmute yourself.
muted.
Yeah. Come on, keep it simple. We're very excited to hear you. All right. You're struggling with the mute. While you figure that out, we are gonna. God Almighty. I'll read something from the audience here. M Rei sent $5. Well, euros, €5. Really appreciate your content and your intelligent and kind character. Cheers from Germany, Air Meister. Well, cheers to you. I hope you're drinking a lot of beer over there now and staying warm and breaking all the rules that your country's inflicting upon you with not insane rules. I believe in Austria and Germany, of all places, after the history that they're not standing up to totalitarianism. Okay, we lost keep it simple, but he shall return. So let's jump into Brandon's article then about the glories of Bitcoin mining. And I want to read you. Before that, I do want to remind everyone about the Fed. Just if you didn't believe me, the minutes showed that the Federal Open Markets Committee is in favor of raising short-term rates sooner or at a faster pace than participants had earlier anticipated. So there you go. That scared some people. I mean, why people still worship that centralized entity is beyond my understanding. But okay, let's move to energy. Generating more energy, not less, increases quality of life for all. I want everybody to remember that. Keep that in mind. Bitcoin is a pioneer species, exploring Bitcoin mining through the lens of ecology. This is Brandon's awesome article, which is linked to below, and I'm going to read from it, and then he's gonna expand upon everything. Bitcoin basically equals universal digital property rights and mastery over energy, pillars of progress in the 21st century. Again, I love the progress that Bitcoin brings to this world. There is no optimistic version of the future in which humanity does not use significantly more energy than it does today. Energy consumption is directly correlated with GDP. Want to help developing countries? Help them harness more energy. Interestingly, Bitcoin acts as a free market subsidy for energy investment, incentivizes developing otherwise uneconomical energy sources. As these new latent energy sources come online, humans will follow energy resources, resulting in the great spreading out. So this is the thing, people. When you tap energy that was previously untappable, okay, you build around that. There's more progress in this world. Cities are going to pop up around places in the desert where they figured out how to generate energy that Bitcoin mining helps subsidize. Okay? So with that in mind, that you have to ignore the people that put this FUD into the world, that using more energy destroys the world, is killing us. It's the complete opposite. It's bringing prosperity to this world. And if Bitcoin mining can help increase make economically palatable energy resources that previously were not profitable, then let's do it, baby. So Brandon's written an article, talks about it in the Ecology Light, and talks about different ecosystems and their evolutions over time and how that relates to Bitcoin. So take it away. I garbled some there at the end, but Brandon, you can explain everything better than I can.
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. Really appreciate it. This is a new essay, as mentioned. It's on Medium. I published it through the Bitcoin Times, which is a publication, a curated publication that Alex Svetsky makes. On my Twitter, you'll find a thread, a long thread summarizing a long article. It's 6,000 some words. So start with the thread if that sounds like a lot. We go through all the mining process, incentives, energy, proof of work, all of the implications here. And I think from a Bitcoin standpoint, we all understand the sound money side, right? Bitcoin offers universal property rights to the planet, but the secondary effects spurred off by proof of work are much less well understood. And it's my belief that incentivizes humans as a species to master energy, to learn how to harness more of it, to how to harness it at a lower cost, more efficiency. And if we do that long term, we might reach what some people call energy abundance. which is that the marginal cost of new energy is so low that humans can sort of just not have energy as a constraint for our development. And if you look through ecology, which is a sect of biology, kind of like systems thinking for biology, it's looking at a whole ecosystem. And a large part of that is, how does energy flow through the system? How do different organisms harness energy, right? Like sun, photons hit plants. Plants convert that energy into a new form of energy. Then animals eat the plants, then bigger animals eat the animals, and then humans come in and eat whatever we want, right? That's sort of like the pyramid of energy usage in an ecosystem. And energy is always the limiting factor. Everyone's just running around trying to get more energy. And that, I thought that was a nice way to look at Bitcoin. And specifically, the thesis here is about pioneer species, which is a unique type of species in biology. And what pioneer species do is that they're the first organisms to a desolate landscape. Let's say a volcano erupts and wipes out all life on an island. How does life repopulate that island? Right? You need these special pioneer species that colonize it first. Usually this is a lichen, so a plant-fungi symbiosis, or it would be like special plants that travel their seeds through the ocean and just happen to land, or maybe they're plants that use birds to drop their seeds onto these new plants or these new islands. Then what happens? Okay, this unique species comes, it burrows into this desolate landscape, and it kickstarts the ecological process called succession, which is essentially just bootstrapping life from nothing to a more complex ecosystem. So they come in there, they transition the land, and then new plants come after that process has been kicked off. Then eventually bigger and more complex life takes over that ecosystem. And uniquely, the pioneer species are suited for the beginning process, but not the end. So they actually get kicked out and they have to leave and colonize new territory. Now, how does this relate to Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin miners actually colonize energy deserts, or they make it more economical to bootstrap brand new energy assets that couldn't work before. Why? Because Bitcoin miners are captive customers. So they essentially decrease the capital cost to create a new energy asset. And then what does new energy lead to? Okay, industry come in to take advantage of that cheap energy. Well, if industry is there, then you need workers. And if workers are there, you need housing and services. And before long, an energy desert turns into a center for human flourishing, similar to that pioneer species. So that's kind of the high level thesis. One more point here. I mean, we could go all day on this, but one more point is why. Okay, why did I write this? And I think the main reason is because people don't really understand energy very well. You can see bad takes all over the internet about this. And okay, bad takes on the internet's one thing, but we're also seeing poor policy decisions coming from a lack of understanding here. Look no further than Germany's energy prices skyrocketing. Well, what did they do? They virtue signaled about wind and solar, and they got rid of a bunch of nuclear plants. Big surprise. Okay, that's not a good thing for our species. And proof of work's the hardest part about Bitcoin to understand. And so I put together a cheeky line, which I actually ripped off from, I don't know, one of the late night talk show hosts. I kind of like perverted his framing, but it goes, Bitcoin mining is everything you don't understand about energy combined with everything you don't understand about Bitcoin. And I try to just kind of shine a light on some of these things. They're very, very important for our species.
Wow, dude, that is I'm glad you got that from the late night talk shows, Samuel. That's so mindless. The late night talk shows are so mindless. You made something brilliant from that. So that is a great thing there. And indeed, you're doing God's work in terms of fighting this FUD, this energy FUD, okay? Because it has just become the popular, and 2022, we can make some predictions here. I think there's going to be two major FUDs coming toward Bitcoin. That it's racist or something like that, something woke, ridiculous, that's so out of the ordinary that you couldn't imagine it 5 years ago. But it's true. It's not true that it's true, but it's true that they're stooping that low. But this energy thing, because the fear of energy abundance, vilifying energy abundance. We're living in a world where the propaganda is completely backwards. It's lying to people, saying if we produce more, that is bad. that kill us. Abundance will kill us, is what they're saying. Not that it will, bring people out of poverty. So, and people they eat it up. I guess people like to be sad and they don't want to be in motion. They really love the storyline of let's save the whole world by turning the world off and stopping progress. And I just don't think they don't see it that way. But it's pretty simple. If we use less energy on this planet, we're going to go backward. We're going to have to go to the bathroom in the woods again. Okay, it's not fun. But what you propose and which is so inspiring, I can envision it now. These dudes, going to places that were previously inhospitable and mining Bitcoin, and then making these energy resources, building cities around these energy resources, and then eventually you build a whole city there. The Bitcoin miners move on, just like you said. The pioneering species, they thrive only in certain environments. Then they move to a new environment. So it's exciting stuff. It's a good article. I think it's inspirational. We've got Rational Root. Did you have any comments on the article? If you had any time to read it.
Yeah, I just read it before the show, and I was amazed. Really awesome work, Brandon. It's such a good explanation of proof of work, which I think is vital for Bitcoin, and also into understanding Bitcoin properly. And you did an excellent job with comparing it to like nature. So that is really an awesome job. I'm sure I'll share it on my Twitter, and I think everyone should read it, to be honest, because it's a very good article. And I loved how you had the analogies in there with the moose and the wolves, and like for a difficulty adjustment. I really think it's a good explanation, and it's true. I mean, Bitcoin's invention, or the technologies that Bitcoin uses, they are not new. They're a combination of things that were already out there, and you show it through that article, and you did it in a fantastic way. And I think, yeah, energy is a very misunderstood concept, and I agree fully with your analysis there. And I think climate change caused us, society to be like cautious about energy consumption somehow, and that's a fallacy. And I think people, through this article, I'm sure people will get it, that the more energy consumption is better for humanity. Though I there's one thing I do want to mention. Obviously, like, it's still good to be energy efficient. Like, if you can have a fridge that is twice as efficient as another fridge, like, yeah, sure, we should aim for using the efficient fridge, right? Like, in that sense. So and I think one side effect, good side effect maybe from like bad policies from the fiat system, in a way that climate change policies, is that people are more aware of their energy consumption, and therefore also incentivized to think more in like energy efficiency, because that is like a benefit maybe from like all these bad policies, that we think more of like energy efficiency, which is still a good thing, right? And that is one thing that Bitcoin does so well as well. Bitcoin mining, it takes, for example, excess energy that it converts into Bitcoin, and that is like fantastic, because that is like we're actually tapping into, we're actually using untapped resources there, and that normally would have been a waste, and that is like efficiency in a way. So I think that's all overall what I have to say about it. But really, congrats on the article.
I want to say I'm glad you brought up the energy efficiency right there, because in the article, Brandon mentions how with the current grid system, they produce excess energy, and there comes along the Bitcoin miners to eat it all up, to efficiently, when they have too much, when they're wasting energy, Bitcoin's there, they turn on the miners, they eat it all up and help the current grid system also. I don't know, Brandon, if you have anything else to say about that.
Yeah, it's a really important point, right? And I think, just to level here, I think most people who are attacking Bitcoin's energy consumption, they have good intentions. However, their ignorance around the energy markets is exposed when they propose solutions and how they attack Bitcoin for, quote, wasting energy. It's completely nonsense. And to your previous point about the grid, Yeah, all the grids produce between 2, 3, or 4x the amount of energy that they need for any average day. Why? Because they have to satisfy the hardest, most demanding days of the year. So, for example, the hottest day of the year in the South means everyone's running their AC, which means demand for energy is really high. But a normal day, the demand is only like 1/3 of what those peak days are. So essentially, we have to build in redundant energy into the grid. And what does that energy do day to day? Well, it gets completely wasted. Why does it get wasted? Well, because transmitting energy long distances is really hard and really expensive, and you lose a lot over the distance. So you can't really transport energy. So demand has to be next to supply. And the next option would be batteries. Well, batteries are also really expensive, horrible for the environment, and they're not very good either. And so the result of this is demand must match supply. That's our challenge here. And okay, we want renewable energy, right? The progressive want renewables. Well, renewables actually produce energy when we don't need it. If you want to learn more about this, Google the duck curve. And what that essentially says is that, okay, solar panels, let's take that as an example. So the sun shines during the day. Okay, the daytime is when the demand for energy is lowest. Why? Because people are at work. Okay, so the solar panels are producing energy that nobody needs, which means it gets completely wasted. And then when people come home from work, the demand spikes while the sun goes down and there's no more solar power. So it's totally mismatched. That's the duck curve. Well, good thing Bitcoin miners come in and they buy up all that excess energy. So they actually make the renewable model more efficient, which is ironic. The next thing to fight against the progressive voice fighting Bitcoin here is that, okay, progressive people want to help the little guy. Great, so do I. How about we do this intelligently? Okay, energy is upstream of prosperity. Energy is what we need to create fertilizer. Energy is what we need to create food, to heat our house, to cool our house, to get to move around, to build things, right? And the poor people, they actually spend a large percentage of their budget on energy-related things. And so if you want to help the developing countries or the poor people, you actually want to make more energy at a lower cost and wider distribution. Okay, you can look at a chart if you don't believe me. Energy consumption directly correlated to GDP. Not a perfect metric, but it's very clear that energy is a prerequisite for flourishing. And if you can look at developing countries, their energy costs are 3 to 4x what we have in the US. Okay, so more energy to developing countries is the most important thing we can do if you want to help them. And there's a big barrier here. That barrier is that energy capital expenditures. So that, you're going to go build a geothermal plant or a nuclear plant or any energy facility. It's very capital intensive. Okay, developing countries don't have a lot of capital, and they're not really that great ROI projects. So you're not seeing international aid do this very much. Well, in comes Bitcoin. What does Bitcoin do? Bitcoin decreases that capital cost and risk of building a new energy asset by being captive demand early on. So it actually incentivizes net new energy assets. And this is massive for places in Africa, let's say, where they have abundant natural resources. They have incredible amounts of geothermal right under the ground. All they have to do is get the CapEx to fund it. Bitcoin decreases that ROI and makes it possible. So if you're a progressive, you should be for Bitcoin mining, not against it. You should be supporting energy. You should be supporting nuclear. Oh man, this stuff gets me fired up. That's enough.
They call themselves progressives. They call themselves progressives. They're regressive, man. That's don't honor that term there. And it seems we do live in a world today where people become blinded immediately. Well, if it helps my enemy, my political enemy, it must be bad. They don't have an open mind where it can help the people that they want to help also. But hey, that's we live in a closed-minded world today. But you really put it all out there in the article. I can't recommend it enough to everyone that's watching right now. So everybody definitely check it out. It's linked below. Keep It Simple Bitcoin was here. Then he left again. Oh man, we're going two-man here, man. We're missing our third dude. That's all right. Brandon. Anyway, we're going to move on in a second, but I do want to see if Rational Root, if you have anything else to say about Bitcoin mining, was his and Brandon's article.
Yeah, just to mention the mining ban we had in China, the 50% drop in hash rate. And, you saw how Bitcoin just went on without a blink, basically, it works very well. And I think, I'm happy actually with because there previously was a lot of FUD, out of China, dirty energy, coal using for mining, that was a big, a lot of FUD, it cost, it was difficult in the debate against Bitcoin's energy consumption to say, okay, they're using coal to mine it. And so I think, the mining ban from China was great for this, actually, to reduce the amount of FUD, because energy, now I think Michael Saylor also had a good influence on that, to basically try to support mining, and tap into untouched resources, or untapped resources, basically, like excess energy from water and whatever sources that can be used for Bitcoin. And I think, I think that is compared to previous years. I think 2022 will have is actually, in 2021 we solved quite a lot of that FUD. And I think with articles that you wrote now, Brandon, I think it will further help to understand energy itself better. And so we can all, those are very good arguments against the FUD we had, so I think I think the worst, to be honest, is behind us in terms of energy FUD for Bitcoin. Don't you think? While still climate change is there. No, you guys don't agree?
I think they're just ramping it up, baby. This is going to be the year. I mean, ESG is creeping into every single corporate boardroom. Every single corporate boardroom is trying a virtue signal about energy. So they and the environment. So they might not actually become more environmentally friendly or whatever, but they're going to keep talking that talk. And that just puts it out there into the popular culture that everyone has to buy into the ESG narrative, that everyone in everything they do in life has to worry about the environment. And Bitcoin doesn't worry about the environment, so they're the big devil. I see it percolating. I see it building in the mainstream culture. I don't know. I was going to ask you, Brandon. Do you think that the FUD is only going to increase?
Yeah, so to piggyback off Root's point and your question here, Adam, the information is now out there, and it's abundantly clear that Bitcoin is not bad for the environment. It's either neutral or going to be a massive net positive, which is what I argue. However, sadly, our world does not deal in facts and logic very often. We like stories and narrative, and we're tribal, and we're emotional, and we're predictably irrational. And so the sad reality is I don't see people figuring this out very, very soon, partially because people are time poor, and the amount of investment required to understand this stuff is pretty great, and people don't have time. And they'd rather just cling to their little tribe anyway and outsource their thinking. At the same time, I'm optimistic that the fact that reality is on our side here, the facts are on our side here. And what I think is the most important way to fight back against this FUD is to actually increase the symbiosis between energy producers and Bitcoin miners. Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to a local company here in Minnesota called Compute North. And they are a mining infrastructure company. They essentially partner with energy providers behind the meter, as they say, which means they're buying energy that never really touches the energy market grid. So it's excess energy, essentially. And they buy it at really low cost. And then they mine Bitcoin with it, or they sell rack space to other miners. And the interesting thing here is they moved into Kearney, Nebraska. Kearney, Nebraska had a contract on the line. I think it was with Google or Amazon or whatever for massive data centers. Then at the last second, the company pulled out, and they just essentially screwed over Kearney, Nebraska. So they had a massive energy production facility and no customers. So in comes Compute North. They build out the infrastructure and they start mining. Then what happens? Kearney, Nebraska has lowered their energy price for their citizens because the Bitcoin miners are effectively subsidizing that energy by buying it in such large quantities. They also employ a dozen people. And now what? Kearney, Nebraska loves Bitcoin miners because it directly improves their community. So now this exact relationship is playing out all over the world. What does that do? Bitcoin miners create allies locally wherever they go. And so let's say the federal government, or maybe it'll go state by state, and they say, hey, we don't like Bitcoin mining, knock it off. We're going to penalize you somehow. You're going to have cities like Kearney, Nebraska stand up and say, hey, wait a minute. You're taking away tax revenue. You're increasing energy prices. You're destabilizing our grid if you attack proof of work. And so I think that's the voice we need, watching local jurisdictions stand up to big bad government and poor policy choices. And yeah, I think it's going to get a lot worse on the ground game. And that's my answer for the most effective way to fight back.
Okay, maybe I'm too rational here, and I'm by no means an energy expert as well. So I'm happy to take your advice there. But I think if you look at Texas, for example, which they are really attracting mining, so I think those and actually the thing you're talking about, those incentives will clarify, upon Bitcoin. And you said the facts are on our side, and I think that's true. So maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think, just the incentives that play out there, for example, Texas, which has a big say, I think, will help, to provide the right information out there, and so I maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think if we look at the previous years, we just had this FUD and there were no solid arguments, but then I think Nick Carter as well did a lot of he wrote a lot of articles on energy for Bitcoin mining as well, and your article, and things are now popping up, and I think that will greatly benefit Bitcoin.
I want to say something that was inspired by the chat here. We have proof of stake fans that are they say they're going to be some of the ones that are going to be spreading the FUD about proof of work and energy and the destruction of the world. Okay, so you're going to get mainstream sources that want to write controversial articles, clickbait articles. They're going to get people from the quote unquote cryptocurrency space to speak poorly about Bitcoin. So it's in the proof of stake people. Some of them are going to think it's in their best interest to spread a false narrative about Bitcoin. So we're in for some interesting times, and Brandon is correct. Just give real life examples, but we're going to have a real life problem with other some of these Ethereum people, and they're going to go down that path once they switch to proof of stake. There's going to be a lot of propaganda that I think a lot of people aren't going to be ready for. So I don't know, Brandon, do you have any thoughts on that aspect of the FUD?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And in my mind, this is absolutely disgusting behavior. If you're, the crypto bros, not Bitcoiners, the wider crypto space, what do they say? Oh, don't be mean to our project. We're just like you. Play nice to us. Let us scam people with our pre-mines in peace. And Bitcoiners say, how about GFY? I guess we're on YouTube, we can't swear. And they don't like that very much. And they beg us to play nice, and then they go in front of Congress and they FUD proof of work with absolute nonsense. So I don't have any sympathy for proof of stake maximalists or anyone who FUDs Bitcoin's proof of work. And okay, that's my ideological argument. The practical argument here is that if you FUD Bitcoin's proof of work and we see some sort of regulatory response in the US, okay, I don't think it's going to hurt Bitcoin long term, but it will definitely change the game for Americans. And if the regulatory regime has a foothold against Bitcoin, which is by far the hardest thing to fight back on, what do you think's next? Do you think that they try to neuter Bitcoin and then they leave your little proof of stake thing going? No, your proof of stake thing is excruciatingly easy to attack, and you're next on the chopping block. So grow up. Do the work and understand proof of work is the most important thing. If you want to see some rants on proof of stake, which is one of my favorite things to do, just go to Twitter, search @bquidda, my handle, and then just type in stake. You can scroll for quite a while. I just ruthlessly destroy proof of stake. Proof of stake is nonsense. It's another political economy. Anyways, don't do that, people.
I want to say, play off of a point that you put out there. They think if some people foolishly with these centralized projects, whether it be NFT, metaverse stuff, just proof of stake, whatever, that they take out Bitcoin, they'll be the next Bitcoin, they'll be the most popular thing on the block. What they don't realize, and what you brought up, is that these centralized entities are actually shields for Bitcoin. Elizabeth Warren isn't going to be able to take down Bitcoin. She's going to be able to take down some proof of stake coin, some ICO, NFT, whatever the latest flavor of the month is. She'll know who's behind it. She'll be able to make an example out of them, and she'll be able to virtue signal to her constituencies. Look, I got rid of these terrorists. It's unbelievable. So that it is shameful that anyone wants to go tell on Bitcoin to mommy government that it's killing the environment, when in the long run it's going to be them that's going to be taken down for the things that they accuse Bitcoin of, but by these sociopathic leaders. So, okay, very, very good point. I think we all we know the truth here about Bitcoin energy. I'm just saying the 80% masses, they're going to be influenced horribly over the next year, and it's going to be frustrating for a lot of us at some points. I just want to put it out there. Get your strong hands ready, and it's very tribal indeed. These people are very tribal. They must be loyal. They feel very important in the energy FUD community. And read again. I link to Eric Hoffer belowhand about mass movements. You'll be able to extrapolate a lot from his book, 5-hour audio book. If you're driving, listen to it. It'll put a lot of perspective on what's going on in the world today. Okay, Tone Vase is appearing in the chat. What's up, Tone Vase? If that is really you, if it's a fake Tone Vase, hey, it's great for Tone Vase. It's like I'm bringing up Las Vegas, March 3rd to 6th, especially March 4th and 5th is the unconfiscatable event in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am going to be there. I'm driving across the country to get there, very slowly driving across the country, but that is one of my final I'm making it all the way to the coast for one day at least, but I hope to see all of you there. It is going to be tremendous. It's always an awesome time. People don't fear a darn thing there. It's not going to be as big as the Miami conference, which will be like 30,000 freaking people. You can't fit 30,000 people into the D Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas, but you can fit a lot, and it's going to be a really good time. And we'll be talking about that. And remember, be a unique beast, Coin Beast. I know Coin Beast will be at. You can get these shirts linked to below. I do a lot of work with Coin Beast. They are pure Bitcoin dudes. If you're into pure Bitcoin dudes, they'll be in Miami. I don't know if they'll be a Tones thing, but they'll be definitely in Miami. So before we talk about Bitcoin's 13th birthday, I want to read a quote from my boy Malandrox7. That's what he's known. That's his handle. He's known as many things in this world. The great state of Florida was the citadel all along. Think about that for a second. For all you people that are trying to build citadels outside of the United States of America, keep it simple. As our guest, who his internet went down, it was sad. He won't be back. As he would say, keep it simple. In the United States, we have all sorts of states that some are insane, some aren't insane. In Florida, they're building a lot. And I spent time in Miami in 2021. I was at the conference. I met Brandon in person there, actually. Brandon, are you going to be at the 2022 conference?
Of course. I'll be there all week. Looking forward to it. And as I look out my window, it is negative 20 degrees in Minnesota right now. So the sunshine is calling my name.
Yeah, it's Florida dreaming on such a winter's day. Seriously, dudes, it's always nice in Florida. Shout out to Cass Elliot, who was part of the Mamas and the Papas, who sang the real song, California Dreamin'. We don't dream of California anymore, Cass Elliot, who was originally from Baltimore, Maryland. All right, so now, and was Jewish, just like me, from Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, you get all sorts of creative people. But I'm not planning to go out the way she went out. Stay healthy, people. Stay healthy. All right, let's Root. Do you have any thoughts about Florida? And I think you're in a not so free place right now. And if you, in theory, could enter the United States, would you go to the Bitcoin 2022 conference coming up on April?
I'm in a very free place now, actually, to be honest.
6
And
to 9th, fun time.
I will try to be at to make it in Miami. Yeah, I most likely I will go if they allow me there. I'll I'll be part of it. Yeah, and just to still add on Brandon, like I like to call proof of stake as well proof of privilege. I think that's a better name for it.
Oh wow, that's great. That reminds me of the original quote that I read from Brandon there. What was that? Bitcoin rewards the productive class at the expense of the political class. The political class is all about granting privileges. It's about fascism, picking winners and losers. And proof of work, it doesn't work like that. So good tying it all up there, dude. So what did you do on Bitcoin's 13th birthday, Rational Root?
Well, I was just on Bitcoin Twitter mainly, but yeah, I'm happily celebrating proof of keys. I think it's a pity that we lost Trace Mayer. I know he's been on your show many times. I've seen him even back in 2016. So I still miss him in the Bitcoin community. I think he was a great voice. He had so many good ideas. And, to talk about this week in Bitcoin, well, this week was proof of keys, right? So that was a very important event, I think. And it's part of the Bitcoin ethos as well, to manage your own keys, to be sovereign. And so, yeah, I think we should definitely mention proof of keys.
All right. That's a flashback to a name we haven't heard for a while. We haven't seen him since Las Vegas in 2020 at Tone Vase's event, Unconfiscatable. The last time he made an appearance, he was at the Scammies. That was on video at one point, but he was on my show, and yeah, that's why we don't put people on pedestals. Proof of keys lives on. Okay, don't take your Bitcoin off of those exchanges. You don't need Trace Mayer to tell you that. And you never know. Maybe he'll make a return one of these days. You don't need a lot of people. They constantly ask me, what happened to the? I don't know, man. That's why you got to go to these live events. You never know what's going to happen. And yeah, that is really Tone in the chat. And Tone will be on the This Week in Bitcoin soon enough. I'm going to get it on here, maybe next week, the week after, and we'll talk more about Las Vegas. Where I put him on right now. We're basically at the end of the show, so there's no point. He'll be on a scheduled show, so everyone can get pumped up about that. But yeah, it's unbelievable that Bitcoin is 13 years old, that it's reached its bar mitzvah age. That was quite a grand time in my life, and it's quite a grand time in Bitcoin's life. Also, time flies moment of it. So let's go to Brandon here. What do you think? Put it in perspective. 13 years, and the last 4 years have been insane. The last year, it's packed full of all sorts of fun. It seems like we get more and more fun in smaller time periods as we move on here. So what's up with Bitcoin being 13 in your head, Brandon?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. First, it's the first time that Bitcoin is officially a teenager. So it's kind of fun to compare it to humans and what does a 13-year-old person do and act like, right? Kind of starting to come into their own, leave the nest a little bit. They try to go hang out with their friends instead of their family, a little more attitude, a little more formidable, right? All these kind of fun parallels come up. And looking back, it's insane what's happened in 13 years, right? Satoshi just sent out some not that great code and a white paper, and all of a sudden that idea bootstrapped itself into a $1 trillion network with hundreds of millions of people owning the asset and tens of thousands of people dedicating all their time and talents to building this thing. That's pretty remarkable. But at the same time, it's still small. It's still relatively vulnerable. It has a long way to go. And so I think just having kind of both of those two in your mind at the same time is interesting. And I actually just sent out a newsletter. I work at Swan Bitcoin, and we just sent out our newsletter this morning. And we did a year in review. And so the 5 bullet points, we essentially picked out the 5 most important events of the last year, and I'll just rattle them off quick. The first one is the great miner migration, which Root touched on earlier. Essentially, China shot themselves in the foot by kicking out all the miners. And their loss is North America's gain, which is where a lot of that hash power went. And why would China do this? It appears that China is known for these geopolitical blunders. Historically, I think it was in the 1600s, maybe a little bit earlier, the Chinese merchant fleet, their ships were the most powerful in the world. So they essentially owned the seas. And that merchant fleet became too powerful. The merchant class became too powerful that China just decided to burn all their merchant fleet. And what did that do? Well, it kind of eliminated this power structure that was competing with the central government, the merchants, and it gave the seas to Europe. Quickly after the Dutch owned the seas, they created the world reserve currency due to these trade networks. And if China didn't shoot themselves in the foot then, we'd probably be speaking Chinese in the US right now. And so small little actions like that have massive geopolitical consequences. And I compare the kicking out the miners identical to that. So a big risk has gone for Bitcoin. That's very positive for the price as well. The second big thing this last year was El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. I think everyone in Bitcoin could talk about a future where nation states were adopting Bitcoin, but the fact that it happened in 2021 is very surprising. I hope we see more countries follow in 2022. The third one is the Lightning Network growth. It's been in talks for 7 years now or something like that, and growth has been really slow, admittedly. But I think this year was the first year that it started to grow exponentially. And it's still tiny, but we're seeing it trend in the right direction. Very optimistic, lots of building there. We also got Taproot, a nice upgrade. Will take years to see benefits from that, just like SegWit. And the last one is Bitcoin went institutional, right? Yeah, we have like the Teslas, MicroStrategy, Square, but we also have a lot of surprising ones like pensions and insurance companies, which are historically very, very risk adverse. And so if they are buying Bitcoin, who is left from a category standpoint? I don't know. I only see positive things coming out of the institutional adoption going forward, especially as the fiat regime unravels. So big year for Bitcoin. 2022 might even be bigger.
It reminded me what you just said. Bring up the pensions are even buying into it. Like was it the Houston firefighters pension? I mean, yeah, we wouldn't be able to imagine this back in 2016. It's a dream come true, and now people don't even make that big of a deal. That it was expected that it would happen, but more and more are going to do it, and that just makes it more scarce. So let's be ready for 2022. And in this bar mitzvah year, one thing that I think I want to make one little prediction that I should have made last week, but something that I've noticed. Glenn Greenwald, I mean, he's not a libertarian. He's not a conservative of any stripe. He deals with liberal politics, and he says what he believes. He's been getting into Bitcoin. He's been interviewing some interesting Bitcoin people that may not all agree with here. And I think, even though I said that we're going to experience a lot of energy FUD, this is going to be the year, and it already started in 2021, that some of these people who do not, quote unquote, aren't the traditional Bitcoin type of people. There really is no such thing as a traditional Bitcoin type of person, but we're going to get some people from the left side of the aisle that are smart, that aren't just like, I must hate everything that helps my enemy or that helps other people. They're going to start speaking up. There are going to be some people that are on the left side that will become more publicly pro Bitcoin, and I think over the long term that is going to help things, and that will eventually be able to fight all the ridiculous FUD that's out there. But when you see Glenn Greenwald start to get interested in it and really putting a lefty spin on it, and just it's good because Bitcoin. It's for enemies. It's for everyone, and there is no left and right in Bitcoin. It doesn't care about your politics, and I think he's starting to grasp that. And I think people from all sorts of political sides are going to realize that in 2022. And it's unfortunate that they need to follow the leader a lot. You need, like, some of these people need people to speak up, because it's just, unfortunately, it seems to be default for people to be collectivist. That need so-called leaders that tell them what to do. But whatever, if they need a spark from some leftist leader, this is going to be the time that it happens. Again, be a unique beast. Think for yourself. Get into Bitcoin because it helps you, not because some person telling you that it helps the collective or that it's going to help you. Decide on your own. But most people cannot decide on their own. They need some inspiration. We're going to get some leftist inspiration this year. It is a pretty prediction of mine. And Rational Root, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, yeah, well said, everything, both of you guys. Yeah, I think you mentioned Taproot there for a little bit. So basically, SegWit got us Lightning, right? And Taproot still, I mean, we will still have yet to see what it brings in the future. But I think some still interesting things that people don't know that much about is that the real DeFi is really being built on Bitcoin. I mean, we got platforms like Sovereign, which you can have decentralized collateral, like loans based on Bitcoin as collateral. And that to me is like the real DeFi, that's still to flourish in the next years. I think that's going to be a big thing, actually, to be honest. And there's still very little known about it these days because it's still an alpha version, like it works already, but it's an alpha version. Once those things get in beta or actually really truly start working properly, I think so many things are bullish on Bitcoin, to be honest. Actually everything is bullish on Bitcoin except for the price momentarily, right? Like, so I think, the only thing, so you talked about proof of stake as a threat. I think you're right there. That might still cause, unfortunately, centralized parties are incentivized probably through proof of privilege or, through privilege to maintain that sort of narrative, to maintain power. And we cannot write that off yet, unfortunately. But I'm sure, the facts are on our side, Brandon. So I think that's true.
All right. I just got an email from the Bitcoin 2022 conference. The prices increase in a week. So use that discount code, people. Get your tickets now. All right. So we're at the end, and it's April 6th to 9th in Miami Beach, Florida. 30,000 freaking people there. It is going to be wild. I'm going to see Brandon there again under the Swan tent. Or maybe there won't be tents this time, but who knows? So, Brandon, tell us about what you're doing. Anything about Swan? And anything else that you want to add that was left out? Any stories you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thanks for having me. These are always fun. I don't know how you have so much energy in your intro. You have a real skill there. Nice to meet you, Root. Glad we had a chance to talk. I think we could go on these ideas for a long time. With regards to sort of a wrap up, let's see. I would just say spend more time understanding proof of work. Even as Bitcoiners, I think we understand this the least. And I think it's going to be the biggest battle of the decade with regards to Bitcoin is proof of work against big climate. We've said this a million times, the truth is on our side, but perception is reality. And so we need to change the perception around this thing if we're going to win this fight. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe Bitcoin's impervious to these attacks, but I would rather be over prepared rather than get blindsided by this. So let's all step up and do the work on that one. If you want to connect with me, Twitter's the best place. B Quittem. That's just B and then my last name. And then please read this essay. Give me some feedback. I've been thinking about these ideas for a long time. Finally put them out there, and I would love to get some feedback in real time. Otherwise my writing's at brandonquittem.com. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
All right, dudes. All three of the guests, but one of them never got to speak, but they're all linked below on Twitter, so follow them. Proof of work versus big climate is a battle that this decade, this golden age, we're going to see. I like that term. I like that. Proof of work versus big climate. I do have, you inspired me to ask you one last question. In the end of the day, within 2 years, do you think Bitcoin will be the only one using proof of work, the only cryptocurrency out there? All the other ones will be scared away, won't they? But they'll be all peer pressured into leaving proof of work. I think Bitcoin will be the only one left, and maybe not in 2 years, but it's the only one that's got the cojones to stick with what's real, which is going to be really awesome. But do you see that happening, Brandon?
We're already kind of seeing this, right? New blockchains do not launch with proof of work. And I think that, I guess there's a lot here, right? Like, I think proof of stake is not necessarily a technology that has no value. I just think if you're going to make a global neutral base money, it has to be on proof of work, right? Proof of stake is fine for your JPEGs or for your gaming applications or all these things that don't really need to be decentralized. And so fine, go make whatever you want on Solana with proof of stake, but money needs to be proof of work. And so will there be more proof of work chains in the future? No. primarily because Bitcoin already is the global money of the internet, and it would be almost impossible for someone to unseat it at this time. And so, yeah, we only really have the need for one proof of work chain. And so there's no sense in creating a new one. Combined with the regulatory headache or the headwinds culturally against proof of work, there's no reason to build more of them. That's what I think.
Beautiful. You're beautiful because you brought up a point that I brought up before too, that Bitcoin is money. It's the world reserve cryptocurrency. The other things out there, NFTs, that's use proof of stake for that. That's cool. And then everyone can be happy. I think we just look at it that way. Bitcoin won the money war, and the other ones can do all sorts of creative metaverse ever in the land of proof of stake or whatever the heck they're doing over there. And we should be happy and let them go their way. Bitcoin will go its way. And then we got to deal with the rest of the world just thinking that proof of work is this evil thing, but whatever. Okay, so Root, your final thoughts. Anything you've got to add? Yes.
Yeah, so actually one thing that came to mind about proof of work when you just mentioned it now was like they actually tried to, proof of work is an old technique, that's been used before, before Bitcoin was ever invented. And I thought of email, so talking about inefficiency, like 90% of the email traffic is spam, yet we still use it, like today. And, should we all ban email because, it's inefficient? No, right? Because it's useful. And but proof of work was tried there as well, on email. So actually, you had to do play a little game or so before sending an email. So that would disencourage spamming, right? And it was very effective on spam, but obviously nobody wants, go through the hassle of doing this, but so Bitcoin really, made proof of work come to fruition, and that's I think Satoshi did an incredible job there, and so that just came to mind that it was used on email before unsuccessful, and but it was still beneficial in a way. It would have caused the network to become very efficient in terms of no spam, but not very useful, not user friendly to use. So that was a big trade-off that didn't work there, but for Bitcoin it does work, and that is awesome.
All right, I want to say one thing that comment on what Brandon said before too about China. Yeah, they did the wrong thing. They've done it before. A lot of people, unfortunately, during the last 2 years, thinks China tells the truth about everything, and they can, through their centralized fascist control, it's so efficient. Look how they got rid of the virus. Yeah, whatever. And no, it's when you've got this centralized control, they can make horrific decisions very easily also. And they made a very bad decision here, and it will cost. Hopefully, it'll bring about the overthrow of their centralized fascist system when people become poorer over there, and hopefully they notice that in the West we become more free. But again, stop putting China on a pedestal, people. Also, they can make mistakes. They're not super geniuses.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so China is more efficient, right? Anytime you centralize control, centralize decision-making, you can make decisions quicker and more efficiently. China tomorrow can say, we're going to build 30 nuclear reactors and convert to a nuclear country, which they're looking like they're going to do. And that's good for the environment, and that's good for China, right? So that's a pro for authoritarianism. They're also very efficient at rounding up the Uyghurs and performing a genocide. They're also efficient at managing their population through social credit systems, right? So efficiency cuts both ways. And if they make a mistake, they efficiently made a mistake, right? And compared to America, yes, we have outrageous bureaucracy, right? That slows us down. But that also, quote unquote, gives us checks and balances. That makes us inefficient at making bad decisions too. Right. So that slows down poor decisions. And the trade-off in a more decentralized nation, which is what America is supposed to be, the trade-off there is that we're actually more resilient. OK, so theoretically, bad decisions do not get implemented as easily because the conversation takes more time to play out, more people get to weigh in, blah, blah, blah. And so that's part of the reason why the American government, at least on paper, is the best form of government ever created. You can look at the results, they speak for themselves, but you can also look at how long the system's been actively implemented, right? It's very rare for governments to go this long, and that's due to intelligent designing from our forefathers. These are things like the centralization of power, individual property rights, individual freedoms. These things matter. You might be noticing the parallel with Bitcoin here. Yes, there's a lot of parallels with Bitcoin. Bitcoin appears to be more or less American values instantiated into an autonomous protocol. It's essentially a government in a box replicating similar values. And okay, people say freedom. Why does that matter? Are you just some libertarian who wants to like circle jerk around about freedom? Well, yes, I am, but also it's practical. Okay, freedom matters, and it matters because free countries, and this is all backed with good data, free countries are the ones who produce innovation, and innovation produces prosperity. You can go read a book by Matt Ridley. I think the book's called Innovation. It's his newest book, great author, and he builds his case very clearly. Freedom is the parent of innovation, and innovation is the parent of prosperity and the child of freedom, or some quote like that. And I would like to take this one step further. Bitcoin is freedom money. Bitcoin produces freedom. Freedom produces innovation, and innovation produces prosperity. So if you want prosperity, you want Bitcoin.
Down that like button for innovation. I cannot stress it enough. I mean, that's such an important aspect of this world that people take for granted. They really take it. And you're reading Matt Ridley. Are you reading Alex Epstein also by any chance?
I haven't, but I would like to. I'm a fan of Alex. I haven't read his book yet. The bookshelf is long and my time is limited.
Well, again, Alex Epstein is a guy who's on the same page as you when it comes to energy. You know, he's straight up, he's doing a great service to this, to our culture by putting it out there that we need to use energy to end up with innovation and a better way of life. So I'm trying to tie it all together there, but very, very good. Very, very, very great points as always. And we will leave it with the rational root. I mean, there's a lot of people don't know your rational root. They know you from Twitter, but they haven't heard you. So I just want to, get your final takes on what you're doing and and final thoughts here.
Yeah, I've not been very active in podcasts and so forth. So I'm an analyst, so I'm more like behind my computer and just looking at data. And but I just try to contribute to Bitcoin. You know, I've been thinking for quite some time how I could contribute to Bitcoin, and obviously, like I still think just holding Bitcoin is the best thing you can do to contribute to Bitcoin. So there is actually no need to do more. But if you can do more, like obviously everything is welcome. And I think just the things I could do is like analyze data and help people, see that we're in a long-term bull trend and show this through innovative charts and people like price data. Price is important to people, and the higher the price goes, obviously the more it attracts people. And so that's how I felt I could contribute to Bitcoin, and people seem to like it. So that's good. For the rest, I don't have much to say. I think thank you for inviting me, Adam. As I said, I've seen your show even back in 2016. It was good. You were spreading the word, to think long term and to think of the next halving. And you had a daily show back then. I don't know if that's still going now, but it helped. And so it's great to be on your show now. And thanks. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. What I've been preaching all along is, dude, you don't have to do something with your Bitcoin. Holding that's doing something. And dude, if you've been holding it since you were watching my show back in 2016, then you're doing very well. There's plenty of people that say, they come up to me and they say, yeah, I have been watching your show since 2016. It made me a freaking millionaire. Pound that like button. All right. On that note, I got to say it is Friday. I'm in Fayetteville, Arkansas for the first time ever. It's a little cold, but it's going to get warmer. Shabbat shalom, everybody. We do this show every Friday, basically. Tone Bays is going to make an appearance soon. Come down to Miami. We are super spreading the Bitcoin 2022 conference. Yeah, we use that super spreading term for our advantage. Last year, they said, oh, you guys super spread. Lie. We are super spreading Bitcoin information here on this channel at the Bitcoin 2022 conference, April 6th to 9th in Miami. We're actually in 2022 now. We're living in the freaking future. This used to sound so freaking futuristic, and now we're there. And we're one day closer to an all-time high, people. So I know most of you dudes have strong hands and don't believe the weekend hype, but man, there are going to be a lot of people that regretted what they did this week by having their weak hands. I'm glad that the people who watch this show, they got the strongest hands around, and they're going to tell stories of this time when this year started and look back one day. You're watching this in the 6-digit realm. You're mighty happy now in the future. So pound that like button. Shabbat shalom. I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister. Thank you again, guest. And yeah, we will see you soon. Yeah, one Bitcoin show. We need 67 more bucks for. So keep on donating, people. We'll get another one of these days. See ya. Thank you, everybody. Woohoo! All right, good one. Let me just stop it on this end.